Tegan said it like she was making an observation about the weather. Casual, comfortable. The voice of someone who had decided the comment was harmless because she'd already decided my feelings were optional. She smiled over her wineglass and looked right at me. She's not even real family. The room froze. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Heat flooded my face first. Then everything drained out and left me cold from the inside. I looked at my stepdad, the man who had stood beside my mother at an altar and said things about family. I looked at him and waited. He stared at his plate. Like I was invisible. Like he had decided the safest place to look was somewhere that didn't require him to respond to what had just happened. Tegan's eyes stayed on me. Bright. Pleased. Because the silence was her applause. The room's stillness was proof the comment had landed exactly where she'd aimed it. I forced my voice into something that resembled calm. Okay, I said softly. The word was almost nothing, barely audible above the ambient sounds of the dinner table. But inside, a decision formed cleanly. If I wasn't real family, I was done protecting their fake story. My name is Maria Ashford. I've been trying to earn a place in this family since I was 11 years old. A place I was supposed to be given. In the bathroom, I gripped the sink, breathed through the sting behind my eyes, listened to the sounds filtering through the wall. Someone was smoothing it over. Someone else saying she didn't mean it like that. She didn't mean it like that always meant, we're not going to fix it. When I walked back out, my stepmom murmured, "Don't be sensitive." Sensitive. As though belonging was something I was requesting too loudly. As though wanting to be included in my own family was an unreasonable demand, I should dial back. I sat down, put the practiced smile back on my face, the one I'd been building since I was 11. But something had changed this time. Something in me had hardened, not into anger exactly, into clarity. I had spent years adjusting my behavior to fit into a house that was never going to move toward me, shrinking, apologizing for occupying space, making myself easier to overlook so nobody would have a reason to push me out. That arrangement was ending tonight. I was done begging for warmth in a house that had decided to run on cold. The memory came in the car on the way home. The day my mom married my stepdad, adults smiling, relatives in good clothes. Me standing beside my mother with her hand in mine like it was the last solid thing in a room that was tilting. Tegan had watched me from across the ceremony space, with eyes that communicated something very clearly and very specifically. You don't belong here. The first rule I learned in that house had arrived within the first week. Don't make waves. Be easy. Be grateful. The second rule had taken a little longer to understand, but was actually the more important one. Tegan's comfort mattered more than my presence. Her ease was the organizing principle. Mine was the variable that adjusted. That night, after I got home, I opened the box I kept at the back of my closet. Old cards, photographs, folded notes. At the bottom, a letter from my stepdad, written in the second month of the marriage. Formal in that way adults wrote to children when they were trying to say something that mattered. We're a family now, it said. I sat on my bedroom floor and read it twice. If that was true when he wrote it, why had he sat at that table tonight and said nothing? The next morning, the family group chat was full of photos. Tegan had posted several from the previous night. Candid shots, people laughing. The dinner, looking like something warm and successful and normal, like nothing had happened. Then, buried between the third and fourth photo, a message from Tegan. Sorry if anyone got offended last night, lol. Lol. Like she had bumped into someone accidentally in a hallway. Like the offense was a mild inconvenience rather than a deliberate targeted comment delivered with a smile to an audience she'd cultivated for exactly that purpose. My stepmom replied within 4 minutes. No worries, honey. My stepdad replied with a thumbs up emoji. I set my phone face down on the kitchen counter and stood there for a while. Because the thumbs up told me something more clearly than the original comment had. Tegan didn't need everyone in that family to agree with her out loud. She didn't need explicit approval or vocal confirmation. She only needed them to stay quiet. Quiet was agreement. Quiet was permission. Quiet was the mechanism by which her version of events became the established one. My stepdad's thumbs up was not neutrality. It was architecture. And I was starting to understand exactly how the building had been constructed. 3 weeks later, a relative called me about something unrelated. We talked for a while, and somewhere in the middle, she said it casually. "Did you end up liking the graduation gift I sent?" I always wondered. I went still. "What gift?" I asked. She paused. "The card. I said cash inside, last spring." My hands went cold. I hadn't received a card. I hadn't received anything. I'd had no idea she'd sent something because nothing had ever arrived. I kept my voice even. "I never got it," I said. She was quiet for a moment. "I mailed it to the house," she said, "with your name on it." To the house, the family home, where Tegan had lived, where Tegan had access to everything that arrived through the front door. I thought of a message from months ago, Tegan texting while I was at work. "Can I grab the mail today? I'm already heading out." I'd said yes without thinking about it. The cold moved from my hands up through my arms. I told my relative I'd look into it, kept my voice warm and unbothered, ended the call, and sat with the specific feeling of a small piece clicking into place inside a picture I hadn't known I was building yet. I called my relative back 2 days later. I kept the tone gentle, curious rather than accusatory, because I didn't want conflict. Not yet. I wanted truth first, and truth required patience. She sent me a photo of the card she'd purchased. Cream envelope, my name in her handwriting on the front. She also sent the tracking confirmation showing delivery to our address. Delivered, accepted. Not by me. I saved both images to a new folder on my phone. I named it Proof. The name made my hands tremble slightly when I typed it, because creating a folder called Proof against people who were supposed to be your family felt like a specific kind of grief. Like acknowledging something out loud that you'd been hoping wasn't true. Then, I thought about Tegan's face at dinner, the brightness in her eyes when the room went silent, the pleasure she'd taken from that silence. She's not even real family. Fine. If that was the category I'd been assigned, I would function inside it with the clarity it offered. An outsider was observant, prepared, not fooled by warmth that was actually performance. I was going to be all three of those things. Starting now. Mom called on a Sunday afternoon. We were talking about something ordinary when she mentioned it almost in passing. "Your stepdad's been consistent about the college contributions," she said. "I'm glad he followed through." I stopped walking around my kitchen. "What contributions?" I asked. Mom paused. "The college fund," she said. "He's been sending money monthly. He told me it was set up for you." My chest tightened. "Mom," I said carefully, "I've been taking out loans. I've been working since sophomore year. There's no college fund I've had access to." The silence that followed was the specific silence of someone whose understanding of a situation had just cracked. "But he said..." Mom started. "What exactly did he say?" I asked. Another pause. "He said it was going directly to you," she whispered, "that he'd set it up properly and you were receiving it." My head felt light. Someone was lying. And it wasn't Mom. Her confusion was real. Her voice had the particular quality of someone being surprised by information rather than managing it. My stepdad had told her I was receiving money. I hadn't received anything, which meant either it had gone nowhere or it had gone somewhere else. And I was becoming very sure I knew which option was true. I started paying attention differently, not making obvious changes, not asking sudden questions that would signal what I was looking for. Just listening. Watching. Tegan had always positioned herself as helpful around household logistics. Phone calls she volunteered to handle, mail she offered to collect, small administrative tasks she inserted herself into with the easy confidence of someone who thought of efficiency as her specialty. 2 days after the call with my mom, I was in the kitchen when I heard Tegan's voice through the half-open hallway door. She was talking to my stepdad in the study. "Don't worry about the account logistics," she was saying. "I handle the accounts." "I handle the accounts," said like it was a simple, practical fact. The way you'd say I handle the grocery list or I handle the recycling. My pulse spiked. I moved away from the door before she could see me. Later that evening I asked my stepdad something casual, how things were organized financially with the household. His face tightened in a specific way. "Tegan helps me with spreadsheets," he said. "She's good at details." Helps. The word people used when they wanted to describe power as assistance. I nodded, smiled. Let it go completely on the surface. Inside, I had found the thread, and I knew exactly where pulling it would lead. I asked my stepdad directly on a Tuesday evening, waited until Tegan was out of the house, found him in the kitchen, kept my voice calm, kept my face neutral, made it sound like record-keeping rather than investigation. Could I see a statement for the college fund account? I asked. Just for my own records. Loan documentation. His face tightened immediately. Why do you need that? He said. Because I never received anything from it, I said. Gentle. Factual. Silence. Then the door opened. Tegan came back earlier than expected. She walked into the kitchen and read the room in half a second. She laughed. Loud and easy. Oh, Maria, she said, always accusing people of things. I hadn't accused anyone of anything. I'd asked a question about a bank statement. My stepdad said, we'll talk about it later. Later meant never. I recognized later. I drove home and opened my laptop. Requested my own credit report. Filed for financial records associated with accounts linked to my social security number. Started the formal request process through the appropriate channels. If money had moved in my name, the records would show it. And I was going to find them. The credit report arrived 10 days later. I opened it at my kitchen table on a Saturday morning with coffee I stopped drinking after the first page. An account I didn't recognize appeared in the middle section. Small balance, old opening date. The address associated with it was the family home. The address I had lived at for 6 years during high school and the summers I came back. My social security number attached to it. My hands went cold in a specific way. The kind of cold that started in the fingers and moved up. I sat with the page for a long time. Tegan had access to our mail. Tegan handled the accounts. Tegan had looked me in the eye at a family dinner and said, not even real family, with the specific pleasure of someone who felt completely safe saying it. The anger that rose in me was sharp and immediate. Then it cooled. Not because I'd forgiven anything, but because anger wasn't useful right now. What was useful was the realization sitting clearly in front of me. This wasn't just cruelty spoken across a dinner table. This was theft operating inside the language of family management, and I had the first piece of documentation to prove it. I called Oren Vale that week. He was a credit counselor whose contact I'd found through a community financial resource. I explained the situation carefully, gave him the account details, described what I'd found and what I suspected. Oren listened all the way through. Don't confront anyone yet, he said. Get the full picture first. He walked me through the formal request process, which documents to file, how to trace account origins, what to ask for in a records request to the bank specifically. I took notes until my hand hurt. Over the next 3 weeks, I kept showing up to the family house as though nothing had changed. Dinner twice, a birthday gathering for a neighbor, the ordinary texture of family life continuing around me. Tegan made her small comments, jokes about how dramatic I could be, references to being sensitive, little knives delivered in pleasant tones. I smiled through all of them. Let her believe I was still the same Maria she'd managed for years. The one who absorbed things quietly and adjusted to make everyone more comfortable. I was building something she couldn't see. Every smile I gave her while gathering evidence was one more wall going up between her version of events and the documented truth. I was almost ready. A family gathering at my aunt's house, casual, afternoon food, kids running around, the kind of event that felt informal enough for Tegan to relax into her natural behavior. Someone set up a phone for photos near the fireplace. Tegan organized it. Of course she did. Okay, family photos, she announced. Bright, enthusiastic. Then she looked at me with a smile that had something sharpened inside it. Just real family for this one, she said. Lightly. Gesturing toward the frame with one hand and away from me with the other. My face burned. I stepped back. The photo was taken. I heard the camera sound. Heard people laughing. Later, near the back door, Tegan passed me and leaned close. You don't belong here, she whispered. Not loudly, not for an audience. Just for me. I looked at her, held eye contact for a long moment. Then why are you scared of me? I said quietly. It was the first time I'd said anything other than a polite deflection. Tegan's smile faltered. Something moved across her face. Not guilt, fear. Brief, controlled, but real. She walked away. I watched her go. She knew something. I didn't fully know what yet, but she was scared of what I might find. Which meant I was getting close. The bank records arrived in a thick envelope on a Thursday. I sat at my kitchen table and opened it carefully. The account had been opened online, entirely digital process, no in-person visit required. The email address on the account opening documents was not mine. I stared at it. One character different from an email I recognized, a number swapped. The kind of variation that was specifically designed to look like a typo if you glanced at it. The kind that was actually a deliberate construction. The email format matched Tegan's pattern. Her old email with a number changed. Not accidental. Not a data entry error by a bank employee. A choice someone had made. I set the page down on my kitchen table, sat with my hands in my lap. There was grief in the documentation. That surprised me. I'd expected clarity, and there was clarity, but there was also grief underneath it. Because confirming it meant accepting it was real. It meant accepting that someone I'd lived alongside for years had looked at the logistics of my name and seen an opportunity rather than a person. I took a slow breath, then added the documents to the folder. Proof was becoming something substantial. I went to my stepdad on a Thursday evening, waited until the house was quiet, until Tegan had gone to spend the night at a friend's place. I brought the documents with me, not all of them, the most important ones, organized clearly. Just the facts without my interpretation layered over them. I set them on the kitchen table. My stepdad sat across from me. He looked at the pages. His face went pale in a way that moved from the top down, starting at his forehead, spreading. I didn't know, he said finally. I believed him on that specific point. The specifics he hadn't known. But there was something else. You let her call me not real family, I said, calm. Not accusing, stating. He didn't answer immediately. I was trying to keep the peace, he said finally. Keep peace. The phrase that always meant sacrifice me, that always meant Tegan's comfort was the measurement of how peaceful the household was. And my discomfort was the cost of achieving it. Peace isn't the right word, I said gently. What you were keeping was her ability to continue. He looked sick. His silence hadn't been ignorance, it had been convenience. He chose not to look too closely, because looking closely would have cost him something. My stepdad admitted it the following week, a second conversation. After he'd had time to sit with the documents I'd shown him, he sat across from me with tired eyes and confirmed what I'd been piecing together. There had been a college fund account. He had contributed to it monthly for 4 years. Transfers he'd made faithfully, believing they were building something for me. The account had been set up by Tegan to manage. For the household, she'd told him. For the family finances. He'd understood that to mean I was receiving it. So you thought I was getting help, I said, and you never checked. He flinched. Your mother said you seemed okay, he said. I assumed. Everyone assumed, I said. My mother assumed because she trusted him. He assumed because he trusted Tegan. Tegan had built those assumptions deliberately, had cultivated them, had made sure each person believed the next person was verifying what she was managing. It was elegant, in the specific way that exploitation was elegant when someone had been practicing it for years. She collected all of it, I said. He closed his eyes. I think so, he admitted. I sat with that for a long moment. Then I said, there's going to be a larger conversation about this. And I watched him understand that quiet was no longer protecting anyone. Tegan came to find me in the kitchen on a Sunday morning. She moved with the energy of someone who had decided something and was executing it. Purposeful. Fast. She leaned close, voice low enough that it wouldn't carry. If you go after me, she said, you'll destroy this family. I looked at her. Destroy this family. As though the family hadn't been being quietly dismantled for years by her choices. As though I was the agent of damage here, rather than the person who had been absorbing it. You destroyed the trust, I said. My voice was even. Tegan laughed. Sharp. The specific laugh of someone covering panic with performance. Who are they going to believe? She said. The real daughter? Or the shadow? Shadow. She wanted that word to land on me like a judgment. Like it had before. Like all the words before it had. I didn't respond. But my hand was already in my pocket, pressing the record button on my phone, capturing the voice, the specific words, the timestamp. She'd given me the final piece without knowing she was giving it to me. I watched her walk out of the kitchen. Then I stood still for a moment. The folder was complete. My stepdad announced his milestone birthday dinner 2 weeks later. Big venue. Relatives from several branches of the family, a formal event with dinner service and a program for the evening. Tegan had volunteered immediately to organize the slideshow, to curate the photographs, to manage the visual narrative of the night. Of course she had. She understood exactly what a slideshow was, a story told to a room. A version of events packaged visually and delivered at a moment when everyone was emotionally receptive. Whoever ran the slideshow ran the story. Sable, my closest friend, called me the night the announcement went out. "Are you going to use the dinner?" she asked. I thought about the question carefully. "I'm not going to expose her to be cruel," I said, "or to win something, or to punish her." "Then why?" Sable asked. "To stop it," I said. "And to be free of a lie I've been living inside." That was the distinction that mattered. Revenge was about hurting someone back. Protection was about stopping what was still in motion. I assembled the folder completely. Bank records, email documentation, missing gift confirmation, the recorded threat from the kitchen, and one summary page on top, simple enough that a stranger could understand it in 60 seconds. I was ready. I met with Oren one final time before the dinner. I'd updated him on what I'd found, the full picture. He'd walked me through the formal dispute process. The accounts associated with my name were in the process of being challenged with the documentation I'd gathered. At the end of the meeting, I asked him something I needed to ask out loud. "Am I doing this for revenge?" Oren looked at me, didn't answer immediately. "What would revenge look like?" he said. "Humiliating her," I said. "Making her lose everything in public because I want to watch her lose." "And what is this?" he asked. I thought about it. "Stopping something that's still running," I said. "Correcting records that are still wrong. Making sure she can't keep doing this to someone else after I'm gone." Oren nodded. "That's not revenge," he said. "That's protection." The words steadied me. I wasn't going to scream at her, wasn't going to insult her, wasn't going to perform outrage for an audience. I was going to present facts. Facts were not emotional. They didn't require anyone to agree with them. They just existed. And I was going to exist inside them. Calmly, clearly, finally. There was a pre-birthday family brunch 2 days before the main dinner. Casual, daytime. The kind of event that felt low stakes and therefore comfortable. Tegan made a toast. She stood at the head of the table with her glass raised and smiled at everyone in the specific, warm way she performed when she needed a room to feel like she was the anchor of something. "To family," she said. "The real ones." Her eyes found me across the table at the end, staying on me for exactly 1 beat too long, daring me. A few people raised their glasses. Someone laughed softly. My stepdad looked down at the table. My stepmom smiled too brightly with the exhausted brightness of someone who had been smiling over wrong things for so long it had become automatic. I raised my glass, smiled back, because I wasn't here to win an argument at a brunch table with an audience she'd warmed up over years of careful management. I was here to end a lie. At the right moment. In the right room. With the right documents in front of the right witnesses. 2 days. I could hold the calm for 2 more days. Tegan showed me the slideshow draft the following morning. She presented it like a courtesy, like she was being thoughtful and inclusive. I scrolled through it. I appeared in 4 slides. Out of 42. 3 of those 4 times I was partially cropped, at the edge of something rather than inside it. The 4th was a caption slide. "Moms +1," it said, underneath a photo from an early family vacation. A vacation I'd been on. A family I'd been part of for 11 years by the time that photo was taken. +1. As though I was a guest someone had brought rather than a member of the family standing in the frame. My hands trembled. I kept them still by pressing them flat against my thighs. "Cute," I said. Tegan smiled. "Accuracy matters," she replied. The specific confidence of someone who believed they owned truth. Believed they controlled the story. I nodded pleasantly and handed her tablet back. Tomorrow evening she was going to find out what accuracy actually looked like. What truth looked like when it had documentation behind it and didn't need anyone's permission to exist. Tomorrow was the dinner. I was ready. My stepdad pulled me aside an hour before the birthday dinner. He found me in the hallway near the coat rack. His face was the face of a man who had been carrying something and was about to ask me to carry it instead. "Please don't do anything tonight," he said. "Not here." Not at my birthday. I looked at him. You mean don't expose the truth, I said gently. He looked sick. I'm working on fixing it, he said, quietly. Behind the scenes. Quietly. I stood with that word. Quiet had been the condition that allowed everything to continue. His quiet at the dinner table when she called me not real family. The quiet of everyone who had decided it was easier to look at their plates than at me. The quiet of a thumbs-up emoji sent at 9 in the morning without thought. Quiet is what protected her, I said. For years. He closed his eyes. He was scared of embarrassment. I understood that. But he had been more scared of his own embarrassment than of my pain, for years. And the cost of that fear had been paid entirely by me. I'm not going to make a scene, I said, but I'm not staying silent. His eyes were still closed when I walked away. The venue was full. Relatives from branches of the family I hadn't seen in years, friends of my stepdad from work. Neighbors. People who knew his name and the version of his life he presented to the world. Tegan stood near the slideshow equipment in a dress that communicated intention. She'd put real thought into how she looked tonight. She welcomed people. Organized them. Directed the room's energy the way she always directed things. With the practiced ease of someone who had been doing it for years. My stepmom watched me from across the room. Carefully. Like she was prepared to label whatever I did as drama before I did it. I sat at my assigned table with my bag in my lap. Folder inside. Phone charged and ready. Tegan took the microphone for the opening remarks. She made a joke about blended families and how some people just don't quite fit. Laughter moved through the room. My stepmom's eyes went to me immediately, checking. I kept my face neutral. Tegan clicked to the first slideshow image. A family photo. Early. Everyone in it. Except the version cropped in the slide was missing something from the original that I remembered clearly. Mil. My heart was pounding in my ears. But my hands, resting on the folder in my lap, were completely still. Tegan paused the slideshow midway through. Looked toward where I was sitting with the particular expression she reserved for moments she'd prepared in advance, and was now ready to deliver. And that, she said into the microphone, gesturing in my direction, is Maria, not even real family. She laughed. Light, casual. But she tries. Laughter moved through the room, the thin, nervous kind. My stepdad flinched visibly. My stepmom's smile tightened. I stood up, slowly, without urgency. The way you stood up to walk to a podium rather than to start a confrontation. The laughter faded immediately. Tegan's smile held but required more effort. Oh my God, she said, still into the microphone. Here comes the drama. I looked at the event host standing near the equipment table. May I use the screen for 1 minute? I asked. Politely. Directly. The host looked at the room. Looked at me. The room had gone completely quiet. The kind of quiet that meant people were paying full attention and were uncertain what they were paying attention to yet. The host nodded. I walked to the laptop, not quickly, not with visible anger, like someone going to do something that needed to be done. I plugged in my device. The slideshow disappeared, replaced by a single slide I'd prepared. Clean, white background, dark text. 3 columns, funds transferred, account names, recipient. I kept my voice level. I want to show something that's a matter of record, I said. These are bank-issued documents. I walked through the first section. The college fund transfers my stepdad had made monthly. The account they were directed into. The account holder listed. Someone whispered, "What is this?" I moved to the second section. The account opened in my name. The email address attached to it with the 1 character changed. The delivery confirmation for a cash gift I'd never received. The room had shifted. Not loudly, but completely. Tegan laughed. Too high. That's fake, she said, sharp. I reached for my phone. These are the documents, I said calmly, indicating the screen. And this is a recording from 2 weeks ago. I pressed play. Tegan's voice filled the room. Who will they believe? The real daughter or the shadow? Silence dropped like something physical. Tegan's face changed completely. Panic first. Then rage. My stepdad's eyes were closed. My stepmom looked like the floor had moved beneath her. The truth was documented, and documentation didn't require anyone's belief to be real. I didn't stay to watch it fall apart. I said what I came to say. I didn't do this to embarrass anyone. I said to the room. I did it to stop being erased while being used. I turned to my stepdad. Just him. You can't maintain peace by sacrificing me, I said. That was never peace. Then I looked at Tegan one final time. You don't get to call me not real family while using my name as a resource. I picked up my bag, walked out while the room was still frozen. Behind me I heard voices beginning, arguments, the specific noise of people trying to account for what they'd just witnessed. That wasn't mine to manage anymore. In the weeks that followed, the formal processes moved forward. Oren helped me dispute the fraudulent accounts. Records were corrected. A formal complaint was filed with supporting documentation. My stepdad made real changes, not excuses. Actions. Tegan's curated image in the family required ongoing maintenance she could no longer afford because the people maintaining it had seen behind it. Months later, my stepdad apologized properly. Specifically, without deflecting toward Tegan or toward peace. I accepted it. And I understood something clearly in the quiet of my own apartment afterward. Real family wasn't a category assigned at birth or by paperwork. It was who told the truth when telling it was hard. That night, it had been me.